Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay and the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about primetime matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
Pew, 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 pew. Non-emergency podcast. Sorry, Hi, guys. Kirk Henderson and Josh Bowe. Welcome to Mavs Moneyball After Dark. It is Wednesday night, about 8:30. Josh and I are getting together after getting our kids to sleep, and we wanted to talk about the closest thing to that requires a immediate pod that you can have in the NBA these days, a sort of surprise signing. It's not been made official by American media yet, but two huge European outlets have said that Facu Campazzo is signing with the Dallas Mavericks, and Mark Stein, you all know Mark Stein, independent writer, formerly at the ESPN, New York Times, everybody that matters, said last night that, and I'll just read you the tweet. The Mavericks are in advanced talks with former Denver point guard Facu Campazzo on a one-year deal, league sources say. Dallas still has a 15th roster spot uncommitted. Campazzo appears increasingly poised to seize it, barring unforeseen Mavs moves before opening night rosters lock. So I read that tweet, and Josh and I debated, frankly, getting online and talking about this last night, that this is a foregone conclusion where they're hammering out the details. Then today, when these two European outlets confirmed it, it felt like we should just go ahead and talk about this while we have the energy.
Right. Yeah, it makes sense now. I was just a little worried that we would record something that wouldn't matter, but it's pretty clear.
And it still might not matter, like maybe it'll blow up. Maybe the grassroots effort led by me and me alone that this is a stupid move will result in them not signing him. But hey, a boy can dream.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to talk about it. And I feel like that there's two discussion points here. And one is, I don't know whichever one you want to start off with first. But one is, at the end of the day, this likely won't impact anything in the grand scheme of how this basketball team performs this season. And that at the end of the day, it shouldn't be something that should rankle our feathers too much, yada, yada. And then the second point is being, all that being said, once again, the Mavericks process and decision-making that led to this moment, as small as it is following a trend line that goes back for years now and is worrying and it's frustrating, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, let's talk about let's talk about the practical element of this first. Campazzo is a 31-year-old Argentinian point guard who has spent the past 2 years with the Denver Nuggets. He is 5'10". He was a really spectacular overseas player, both with Real Madrid and in Argentina's basketball league. However, like I mentioned, he is very undersized. He played more minutes than I think than the Nuggets intended him to over the past two seasons because they needed him, because the Nuggets were an injury-riddled team. The Nuggets also elected to not bring him back. He is a mediocre at best three-point shooter. He is a poor shooter overall, hitting only 37% of his shots from the floor in the NBA. Runs an excellent pick and roll, is a very good passer, is a incredibly hard player, and is undeniably one of the 5 dirtiest players in the NBA. That's going to piss some people off, but it's just like, why bat around it? Like it's a fact.
Yeah.
And part of that is because he has to leverage every ounce of his body to stay in the league. He's incredibly hard playing. I think that there will be a certain sect of Mavs fans, and not the Argentinian hive that comes with him, but Mavs fans that will absolutely adore Campazzo's minutes. And then there's going to be another sect that can't believe we ever did this. So what did I miss?
No, that's about right. I looked up some stats while you were saying it because, we've got the baseline stats, which are whatever.
Yep.
About 5 points. They're going to have assists. Not only, you talk about his overall field goal percentage, 37%. I mean, he's a career 46% on twos, and doesn't matter who you are in the NBA. If you're not able to get to 50% on twos, unless you're like only taking Kevin Durant type mid-range jumpers or something, like that's not ideal. He was 47% from twos last year, 44% his first year in Denver. And then another thing was last year, like you said, he played way too much. Like, I don't think they signed him intending him to play as much as he did. I mean, his first season in Denver, he played 65 games and averaged almost 22 minutes a game. And then last season, he played another 65 games, another almost 20 minutes. I want to bet that when Denver signed him, they probably were anticipating him to be like an emergency backup guard. And then, all their guards got hurt. PJ Dozier tore his ACL. Jamal Murray hurt his knee as well. I mean, the Denver was just ravaged with injuries. And he ended up playing almost 1,200 minutes last year. And I got this up right now. Of any Denver Nugget player to at least play 1,000 minutes last year, he had by far the worst net rating of any Denver Nuggets player. When he was on the floor, the Nuggets net rating was minus 8.6 last season. No other Nugget player that played as many minutes as he did or in that range comes anywhere close. And it just kind of goes to show, that Denver team struggled. The injuries were a lot, and he was forced into a role he probably shouldn't play. But at the end of the day, last season you kind of saw what kind of impact he can have on the floor if he's forced into a bigger minute role. And that's probably like, the cautionary tale here in Dallas, because while we ideally would see him as being, again, that emergency backup guard that isn't playing a lot. I mean, one injury to one of Luka or Spencer Dinwiddie, and I would have to imagine he would get thrust into a, closer to 15 to 20 minute per game role. And as we've seen through 2 seasons, it's just doesn't translate into winning basketball.
Well, it's interesting, and I hate to cut you off, but I've already been kind of swarmed upon by elements of the Denver fan base, and they felt just as divisive about him. There was, one fan that told me today, like, well, Coach Mike Malone didn't know how to use him, and I'm like, guy, like, you have the MVP on your roster. I don't give a shit about Campazzo. Like, it's his job to fit and produce in the role that they put him in. You don't build a team around a 5'10" guard. I'm sorry that he stood in the corner some, but you know what? Nikola Jokic is one of the best basketball players in the multiverse. What are we doing? Right. And it's not like if he plays with the Mavericks, he's going to have the ball that much. I also feel the need to address this right now because I'm already seeing comments about it in the Mavs Moneyball where it's like, well, he's an end-of-bench player. No, he was the 15th guy signed. Just because he was the last guy signed does not mean he was the 15th. He's signed to be a 15th man. I feel pretty, after what we've heard today, I'm just going to read you guys a quote. We're recording this at 8:30. At 11 o'clock this morning, Nico Harrison on the ticket. I'm not worried about us not having a third ball handler. And he went on to cite the presence of Ntilikina and the improvement of Josh Green. I'm sorry, you do not sign Campazzo if you are confident in Frank Ntilikina and Josh Green. You don't do it. And we're going to circle back to that around in a big picture way in just a few minutes. But I just felt the need to sort of bring that up in the context of the conversation. He is going to play minutes. I would not be shocked if he plays 15 minutes a game. Now, you're going to probably look at me and say, Kirk, it's 15 minutes a game. Can he steward the offense in that time? Maybe, probably. Okay, it'll probably be fine. And I just find myself irritated for some of the bigger picture reasons. I think in terms of the game-to-game stuff, we will probably look at Campazzo and be just fine with him. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I learned my lesson a couple years ago. Remember when the Mavericks signed Wes Iwundu and there was that whole online debate about, the roster was basically going to come down to, are they going to cut him or are they going to cut JJ Barea? And I got really, thinking back on it now, I got really mad online thinking that they would cut Owusu and keep Barea for, a lot of reasons. Barea's not going to play. He's older veteran, and
yep.
Owusu plays a position. Yeah. Owusu plays a position of vital need. I got really mad online about
I did too.
that. And I thought, and looking back on it, it's so stupid now because he was just, I'm not saying Owusu or Campazzo are comparable in terms of placement in the rotation, but they're still, they're still both bench guys. And at the end of the day, unless it's your sixth man or something like that, a bench guy can only do so much to alter the course of your season. Campazzo might not be the 15th guy, but I mean, if he's the 10th guy or the 9th guy, I really don't think that's going to change too much in terms of even if he isn't great, I don't see that being a huge wart on the Mavericks seasons because, Dinwiddie and Doncic are going to split the point guard minutes as much as they can. I think it's pretty clear that's what they're going to do. Kids already said Dinwiddie's going to run the second unit. And even as a starter, he can stay on the floor when Luka goes goes off the floor first. He can run the bench unit, and then you kind of maybe use Campazzo to fill in, the gaps when both of those guys aren't on the floor. But that's going to be against other bench teams. It's not going to tank the team, or maybe they'll be. It's so I'm done losing my mind over these guys at the end of the bench, which aren't really going to matter. And at the end of the day, hey, he played with Luka on Real Madrid. Luka seems to really like having a teammate that he is comfortable with from his time in Europe. Boban was that guy for a while. Now Boban's gone. I can see it. Think about that Owusu Barea decision. It was the wrong choice because that was the year everything kind of went to hell in a handbasket with the Rick Carlisle coaching staff.
They needed Barea to that gap because Luka Doncic is a young man who's fiery as hell, dealing with Rick Carlisle, who's an old asshat, and there needed to be somebody there to bridge the gap, and there just wasn't, and things eventually fell apart.
Yeah, and I was wrong. So I refuse to get angry at this because knowing that and knowing how much he's going to play. So, but having said all that, I understand your point, and I do think I think this is objectively funny. That the team spent all summer saying that they were going to be okay with backup guard minutes because, of what they believed in Frank and Josh Green. And it basically took 1 week of training camp for them to be like, no, we're not. And I think that's kind of funny. It's kind of the time, if they signed Campazzo 3 months ago, I don't think it's as funny. I'm just talking kind of just funny. Because it's clear that I don't think Campazzo was in the plans.
Yes.
Otherwise, they would have signed him 3 months ago. It's just obvious they got into training camp and they started having practices and they went, "Oh, okay, we were not right about this, so now we need to fix it." And that's the funny part, and that's the part where I understand big picture wise we get mad, and I know that's kind of where you want to jump off to.
Well, and the more I think about it, the more I just sort of come back to understanding that in the big picture sense, this year was always going to be about the Dallas Mavericks taking their medicine, getting out from underneath the draft pick restriction because they owe the New York Knicks something and they really can't afford to trade anything else. We've talked about this a time and a half. It's going to be one of the big discussion points for the next year if Dallas continues to sort of stand pat. They played the market gambling, hoping that something would come out in the wash from the Brooklyn Nets sort of trade standoff and everything that's going on with the Lakers. They just don't have a lot of things that they can do, the Dallas Mavericks, I mean. And that was why, the Dragic situation and their decision to basically not really engage with him at all was immediately frustrating. What was also frustrating and remains to be frustrating to me is the sort of local talk around Dallas where it's just why are you getting mad about this? Why does this matter? And then I look at the depth that the Mavericks have compared to the depth of, let's say, the Philadelphia 76ers or, the Clippers, who are an embarrassment of riches, or the Nuggets, who again parted with this guy. The Mavericks, Mark Cuban said something to the effect today of 25 teams got better this offseason, his typical kind of Cuban doing his best to bat around things where he didn't want to get fined because he inadvertently like dipped into the Wembanyama talk. But it's the Mavericks are ahead of schedule because they made the Western Conference Finals. Then they took a step back, which happened. The why and how I don't want to rehash, but then they had this last roster spot to which they had sort of said, we're going to see what happens. And when you say that, I'm willing to give you some benefit of the doubt. Even with the Campazzo signing, I'm willing to give the Mavericks front office a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. This just clearly wasn't in the plan. They've built a lengthy team of 6'4" or taller guys. Everybody has good wingspans. They take up a lot of space, and they signed a 5'10" guy.
If all the stories about one of the reasons why, there were some reported rumors and murmurs from guys close to the Dallas beat.
Yeah, that they didn't
sign Dragic because kid didn't like his defense. So.
Then that's a perfectly reasonable response. Yeah, I don't like it, but that's a rational reason.
So why do you sign Campazzo?
Then you go sign Campazzo, who might be a willing defender. Like he is without question a more willing defender and a better defender than Dragic, but he is also 6 inches shorter. And if you don't think 6 inches matter, folks, you're being lied to, is what I'm going to say. And it just sort of has been a bit of a challenge for me to accept this, because not this signing, but just kind of the process, because this has been going on for much longer than the current front office, where we're just kind of told to wait and see, it'll be fine, yada, yada. And I find myself sort of big picture concerned about the Dallas Mavericks depth, and this doesn't do anything to assuage it. And when I hear people talking about, I had a conversation today, which goes up with our friend Bobby, or going up tomorrow with our friend Bobby Corrala. And he said, I just feel like this team is deeper. And I don't know if I agree. I think they sort of rearranged pieces. And it's hard to win. The Mavericks are in a difficult spot because they just have elements of talent dearth compared to other teams. I mean, as of right now, this team has Theo Pinson, which is essentially a cheerleading spot. He cannot play NBA basketball in reasonable minutes, as far as I understand it. Frank Ntilikina, a project of projects, who has played 23 preseason minutes, was supposed to get backup point guard minutes and has 0 assists and 4 turnovers. Josh Green, a player who we are all having high hopes for, but this signing sort of dashes elements of what he was supposed to bring to the table, where we're going to see him get to handle the rock. And this signing basically craps all over that. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just sort of missing the point here. Like, I'm not mad. I just feel like this walks back elements of what we understood the plan to be.
Yeah. And like you don't sign this, like I said, if you do this in June or July, that's part of you don't do the signing weeks before the season starts. I mean, we're what, 2 weeks from the season starting?
They play a week from today.
Yeah. Oh, a week from today. Like you don't.
Welcome to the season, Josh.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm just saying, like, you don't bring this guy in unless something that you thought was going to go right didn't go right for you. And it's clear that what didn't go right was they didn't see enough from either Ntilikina or Green or both in terms of being able to handle some point guard dude. I mean, that's got to be it. I mean, if those guys were doing what the Mavericks said that they hoped that they could in, when they were talking about it in August and September, then this signing doesn't happen, right?
So you're being kind. You are using the word hope. That's the incorrect term. We were told that this is what would happen. Okay. Mark Cuban said it on Dalton Trigg's podcast. Nico Harrison said it today. So a large part of what happens, and we've seen this with Cowboys and every sports team, is a team has to have a bit of a unified message. They are quite reasonably banking on the fact that no one is going to care about this. And maybe no one should. Maybe it's just me and you doing the thing we tend to do, which is read too much into it and worry too much. I will just simply note that when the Mavericks get to the playoffs this year, and they're going to get to the playoffs, there's going to come a time and place where we look at the 8 to 9 guys who need to play, and then we look at the 8 to 9 guys who they're matching up with and the other team, and we're going to say the same thing we've said for 3 years. The Mavericks need more.
Yep. And that's the big picture thing that, again, your 9th, 10th, third string, third guard on the depth chart, point guard isn't, he's not
it's not his fault.
Yeah. No. He's not the bearer of this. It's just, again, the tiny paper cuts that they seem to endure that just eventually adds up into something that is undesirable. But knowing how things work, and like I said, I'm trying
they make it work every year.
Yeah, I bet you Campazzo has a great, would not shock me if he has a great year, because that's just kind of how things go. And it feels like the players that I think they bring in that are going to perform really well seem to, I was really big on Josh Richardson when they brought him in. I really liked Wundu when they signed him. I loved James Johnson. I even liked DeLon Wright when they made that signing, and those guys don't turn out, but then the other guys will. So it's just knowing my luck. Usually, how I feel, it feels like the opposite happens. I've been on a kind of a cold streak with that, so I don't know. Maybe Campazzo is a revelation. Who knows? I mean, the Mavericks seem to make lemonade out of lemons regularly. So we'll see what happens. But again, the process, even if Campazzo does work out, the process is frustrating, because again, in July, we were like, okay, you lost Brunson. Let's stop talking about that. What are you going to do to do your best you can to replace him? You've got a mid-level exception, and you've got a first-round pick that you can trade. Well, they traded it for Wood, and they used those two resources that they had, which were really the only resources they had this summer, and they got two centers. And, that's fine. I think those two players are going to be really productive and helpful. I'm so excited to see what Wood can do. And I know JaVale McGee kind of has a baseline of productiveness in a minutes range. But again, it's just we're like, where's the, how are you going to replace this? And we got told that it's not a big deal. The Mavericks said it's not a big deal. And then we're here and they're signing, presumably a backup point guard a week before the season starts. And then it's so, were we right back then? And when you guys got mad at us for saying they need to address their guard depth, and it's just, that's the part that's frustrating. But that's the part that's inside base, that. No one remembers that. No one will remember that by Christmas. It's only stuff that us crazy weirdos remember. So
that's right. And sort of, I've been thinking about what is the ideal outcome in this for me is that Josh or Frank comes out and really captures those minutes and says, these are mine. And Campazzo sits on the bench. Okay, that's the ideal outcome. The second ideal outcome in this process, and probably with the Mavericks, and let's just theory this out a little bit. Maybe the Mavericks still give those two players opportunities for 20 games. And then if it doesn't work, you bring in Campazzo, who at that point would have signed with someone else. He's not sitting on the market for 3 months. He had offers. Well, I don't know about offers, but he was apparently engaged with two other European teams, including Real Madrid. And it's, if you feel like he's one of the best options available for you on the table, the only other option that I could think of was Eric Bledsoe, but I don't know if the Mavericks will ever do business with Clutch ever again. And so it's sort of out there. So maybe there's a backup to a backup plan that's going on here. I don't want as for, you kind of know what Campazzo gives you. If he's going to come in and run the offense, that is what it is. But I still want to see them try the plan that they told us was the plan.
Yeah, because at the very least there's theoretical upside there, because Frank is 24, 25?
He's young enough. Yeah, 24,
I
want to say.
And, Josh is 21. So it's you'd rather see them try and fail with those than try and fail with a 30-year-old veteran who's kind of shown what he can do in the NBA. I know he's only been there 2 seasons, but I mean, he's he played 20 minutes per game, and 130 games is a decent amount of tape for someone who had a lot of professional experience before coming to the NBA. So there's kind of we know what Campazzo is going to do, even good or bad, and there's you always want to go for the upside play, and maybe they, like you said, maybe they still do try that, because I mean, is Campazzo going to be up to speed in a week, or is he going to play in, because they still haven't signed him yet technically. He doesn't, he doesn't get to go through practice and all that stuff until we see the press release gets sent out from the Mavericks that indicates that he's
for sure right. If that's the case, we're just gonna have egg on our face, and I'm gonna look like an idiot because I'm the one who published it. I'm the editor. But
no. I'm not trying to say it won't get done. I'm just saying is it going to get done fast enough for him to, there's a week till the season starts. Is he going to have enough practices? Is he going to get into the final preseason game? Like, that's what I mean. Like, if this takes another day or two to sign, the longer it takes to get pen to paper, the more unlikely it is he starts the season playing 20 minutes
glued to the bench. That's true. No, that's a good point.
They might have to rely on Josh and Frank for the first week as they get Campazzo up to speed.
Yeah. Well, like I said, so just for full clarification, I probably should have led the show with this. Neither you nor I feel that well, which is why I sound terrible and you are a little bit slow to respond because we keep like pressing the cough button.
I'm like 3 octaves lower than normal tonight.
Right. And so, we're both trying to get well for an event we're going to tomorrow with Ben and Scan out there in Salina. They invited us to participate in something going on with their live show, which is really fun and very kind of them. Like I said, I'm going to be posting a show with Bobby Corrala tomorrow afternoon, which will be fun. I'm trying to keep up on the Moneyball Minute, but honestly, I was just so sick this morning I couldn't even record, and I'm probably going to feel just as nasty tomorrow morning. But we have a ton of stuff at Mavs Moneyball. I told Josh, Josh didn't. This is how you can tell we're all in preseason. Like we do like post counts. We sort of have to do that. It's contractual. Like this is, a very lightly compensated hobby that we all do here at Mavs Moneyball because we love the team. But we're just posting tons of stuff. Like we have a lot of writers who are very interested and you're getting between 4 and 6 things a day. And they're real things, people that have worked on. They're not necessarily like 20-minute news bites like 20-word news bites or an update of an update, which tends to happen. Like yesterday, Matthew Phillips wrote a hilariously good and weird and specific 41 facts to know before the Dallas Mavericks season column that I would, if I could, I would just read it on air. We have a couple of different posts about what our kind of SB Nation peers think about the Mavericks that are really fun. Behind Enemy Lines is what they're called. We've been previewing other teams' other divisions in the West and in the East, just because it's the only time we get to write. There's about these other guys. Like there's just a lot of fun stuff on the site. I'm really delighted by what we have. Doyle Rader got an exclusive with Team USA head coach Jim Boylan on the Mavs. He made cuts today. McKinley Wright the fourth. I sort of think he might get one of the Mavericks 2-way deals. Like we haven't even talked about this. We didn't cover it on the site just because I didn't know how to. But another European paper says that Tyler Dorsey's going to get cut. And Tyler Dorsey's been nothing short of awful in his games with Dallas, and it if he were to be cut from his 2-way deal, it's like an interesting thing. Like, why would the Mavericks do it? Oh, probably as an agent favor. Why would also the Mavericks do it? Because they maybe kind of like somebody else that they have on the team right now. Like there's just a lot of interesting baseball weed stuff going on, and we're trying our best to cover it over at Mavs Moneyball. So I hope you have time to give it a listen.
Yeah.
Josh, do you have anything else?
I'm just going to say probably the most comprehensive coverage we've had leading up to the season since you and I have been here.
And last year we did great. I loved the stuff we did last year. It's just more. Yeah. And the really fun part will be, and you guys who have followed us for a while, is to see if we can do this without dying. Because like we all do this in addition to like our regular lives and jobs, and I'm a lunatic and no one else is. And it's like, how do we squeeze, and still have fun with this? I don't know, I'm having a lot of fun. Bobby and I talked today a little bit about how like the ride to the top in terms of expectations is we're here now. We're at the high level of expectations, and what can we do while covering the team to still make it fun without delving into what I refer to as like the Philadelphia 76ers, like fan abyss of darkness where you never have fun with anything and you just bitch about the team. I don't want to do that.
No. Well,
as I had a podcast where I bitched a lot, perfect me.
Yeah, that's all right.
So, all right. Well, this has been fun. You and I will probably be back on Friday night, and if we don't, we might have something going Friday night. So we'll see. But we'll get stuff up on the site, and we've got a week till the game, so everybody kind of enjoy your final days without a basketball grind because it starts in earnest very soon. This has been Kirk Henderson and Josh Bowe of Mavs Moneyball After Dark. Rate and subscribe and all that good stuff. We really appreciate your time and hope you have a good Thursday and Friday.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.